Why does a bullet take 5 seconds to kill a man? Emma Thorne Caldwell knows the answer. She's known it since she was 13 years old, sitting on her grandfather's ranch in Montana, learning that death isn't instant. It's mathematical, it's patient. It travels at 2,750 feet per second through Afghan dawn, invisible to everyone but her. In her mind, she tracks every millimeter of its journey. The climb through thin mountain air. The drift as crosswind catches the copper jacket. The inevitable pull of gravity drawing it earthward toward a man who doesn't know he's already dead. 5 seconds of flight time. 5 seconds of perfect mathematics. The Taliban commander drops like a puppet with cut strings. Christ Almighty. Commander Jack Morrison's voice cuts through the morning silence, rough as gravel, edged with something Emma rarely hears in his tone. Disbelief, maybe, or respect. Where the hell did you learn to shoot like that? Emma doesn't take her eye from the Leopold scope. Her finger moves with practiced efficiency, cycling the bolt on her Remington 700, chambering the next round. Even now, even with the target down, she scans for secondaries, for threats, for the next problem that needs solving, because that's what snipers do. They solve problems from distances where problems don't expect to be solved. My grandfather, sir. Her voice is steady, clinical the way he taught her. Gunnery Sergeant Robert Caldwell, Marine Scout Sniper, Korea, November 1952. Morrison lowers his binoculars. He's 52 years old, 28 years in the teams, 28 years of seeing things that most people couldn't imagine, doing things that history books would sanitize or ignore entirely. And he just watched something he didn't think was possible. The rangefinder on his vest reads 1,850 meters, over a mile. In wind conditions that would make most snipers pack up and go home, wait for better weather, better luck, better odds. The woman beside him just made it look like target practice. She's 5'3", blonde hair pulled back in a regulation bun, green eyes that never seem to blink, 27 years old. And she just reached out across almost 2,000 meters of Afghan morning and ended a life with the precision of a surgeon making an incision. Korea, Morrison says. He knows that war. His own father served there, came home with frostbite scars and stories he never told, stories that lived in his silences, in the way he sometimes stared at winter mornings like he was seeing something no one else could see. Your grandfather must have been something special. He was. Emma finally pulls back from the scope. Her cheek bears the slight impression of the stock, a temporary mark that will fade in minutes but that she's carried in one form or another since she was old enough to hold a rifle. She learned to shoot before she learned to drive, learned to calculate windage before she learned calculus, learned that death was a science before she learned that it was supposed to be something you feared. He taught me everything, she says. Before he died, he made me promise I'd be better than good. She pauses, and Morrison sees something flicker in those green eyes, something old, something passed down through blood and training. He said good gets you killed in this job. Morrison studies her. Emma Thorne Caldwell, Navy JTAC Specialist, Joint Terminal Attack Controller. The person who coordinates airstrikes, calls in the cavalry, handles communications between ground forces and pilots 30,000 feet up, flying metal death machines that respond to her voice like trained dogs. It's a support role, a safe role. You sit back from the fighting, you direct traffic, you go home with stories instead of scars. Except nothing about Emma Caldwell fits that description. Her jacket came through channels 2 months ago, and Morrison read it 3 times because he couldn't believe what he was seeing. 3 years at Marine Scout Sniper School before she transferred to Navy. Graduated top of her class. Qualified on every long-range weapon system in the arsenal. Scores that made instructors shake their heads, not because they were bad but because they were too good. The kind of good that makes you suspicious until you watch the shooter do it again and again, and realize it's not luck or cheating or some fluke of circumstance. It's skill. Pure, undeniable, frightening skill. Then she requested JTAC training, and everyone figured she was washing out. moving to something easier, taking the safe route because combat broke her or scared her or made her realize that being the best on a range wasn't the same as being the best when people were shooting back. They were wrong. "Pack it up," Morrison says. "We've got a briefing in 30. Emma's already breaking down her rifle. Movement smooth and automatic. The kind of automatic that comes from doing something 10,000 times until it's not something you think about anymore. It's just something your hands know how to do. The Remington 700 disappears into its case like a secret being put away, like something dangerous being contained. Morrison watches her work and thinks about the mission brief sitting on his desk back at Fob Wolverine. Operation Phantom Thunder, a target that's been haunting them for months, a shot that everyone says can't be made, a shot that might require someone who doesn't know the difference between impossible and difficult. Someone like the woman beside him, carrying her grandfather's rifle, carrying his legacy, carrying the weight of a promise made to a dying man who understood that good wasn't good enough. But here's what Morrison doesn't know yet. Here's what nobody knows except Emma, lying awake at night in her plywood quarters, reading her grandfather's journal by the light of a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. Her grandfather's record was 2,286 meters. Korea, winter of 1952, enemy machine gun nest. First shot at that distance in Marine Corps history. A shot that stood for 59 years until Emma exceeded it during a training exercise that nobody witnessed, nobody recorded, nobody believed when she tried to tell them. 2,400 meters. Montana, summer wind, her grandfather's rifle, his ghost standing beside her, whispering calculations in her ear. She's been carrying that secret for 3 years, carrying it like a stone in her chest. Carrying it because she learned early that being a woman who shoots better than men means you have to prove yourself twice as hard, shoot twice as far, be twice as perfect before anyone will look at you and see a sniper instead of an anomaly. So she became a JTAC. Safe, supportive, the kind of role where people don't question whether you belong because you're not asking them to trust you with the trigger, you're just asking them to trust you with the radio. But the rifle stayed in her quarters. Her grandfather's Remington 700, cleaned every night, oiled every week, ready, waiting, like she was waiting for the moment when being safe wasn't enough anymore, when being supportive meant watching men die because the shot was too hard, too far, too impossible for anyone to try. That moment is coming. She can feel it the way her grandfather used to feel storms before they appeared on the horizon. The way he used to know when the wind would shift, when the temperature would drop, when the moment would arrive that separated those who could shoot from those who could kill. Morrison's briefing, Operation Phantom Thunder, a target that's been haunting them. Emma knows what's coming, and she knows what she's going to do about it. The only question is whether Morrison will let her. 72 hours earlier, the briefing room at Forward Operating Base Wolverine smells like coffee, sweat, and the particular kind of tension that comes before bad news. Morrison stands at the front, arms crossed, watching his team file in. 8 of his best. SEAL Team 5. The ones who have been with him through Fallujah, through Ramadi, through missions that will never make it into official reports, missions that exist only in classified folders and the nightmares of the men who survived them. Chief Petty Officer Garrett McKenzie comes in first, 40 years old, built like a middleweight boxer, carrying the team's SR-25 sniper rifle like it's part of his body, like it grew there, like separating him from it would require surgery. Behind him, the assault team. Petty Officer First Class Hartley, the breacher who can open any door with explosives or lockpicks or sheer stubborn will. Stevens and Martinez, automatic weapons, the kind of men who walk toward gunfire instead of away from it. Young Kowalski, the medic who saved 3 lives in a firefight last month, whose hands never shake no matter how much blood they're covered in. And Emma, slipping in last, taking a seat in the back, always watching, always calculating, always present but somehow separate, like she's observing the world from behind glass, taking notes on a species she doesn't quite belong to. Gentlemen, Morrison begins, then catches himself. Old habits. Language learned in a military that didn't have many women, certainly didn't have many women like Emma. And Petty Officer Caldwell, we've got a target. The projector flickers to life. A face appears on the screen. Middle Eastern man, late 40s, thick beard, eyes that hold the kind of certainty that makes him dangerous. Not the wild certainty of fanatics who blow themselves up for paradise. The cold certainty of men who send others to die while they survive, who plan, who calculate, who kill with strategy instead of passion. Called Danny, Taliban commander, call sign the Ghost. Morrison's voice is flat, reciting facts like a coroner reading causes of death. Responsible for 47 coalition deaths over the past 18 months, IED ambushes, coordinated attacks on supply convoys. He's smart, he's careful, and he's been untouchable. Morrison clicks to the next slide. Satellite imagery of a compound in the Pech Valley. Stone buildings clustered on a ridgeline, ancient architecture that's survived empires and wars, and now shelters a man who thinks geography will protect him. Intel confirms he's here. Small security detail, minimal fortifications. He thinks he's safe because of the terrain. Another click, topographical map. Lines and elevations and the kind of geography that makes infantry commanders sweat. The problem is access. The valley's a kill box. Every approach is exposed. We can't get close without getting shredded. Air strikes off the table. Too much collateral damage, too many civilians in the compound. We need precision. We need a single shot. Mackenzie leans forward. He already knows where this is going. 20 years as a sniper teaches you to read terrain the way priests read scripture. What's the range from feasible overwatch positions? 2,800 to 3,200 meters, give or take. Someone whistles low. It's the sound men make when they hear impossible numbers, when mathematics defeats hope. Mackenzie shakes his head slowly. Commander, that's theoretical distance. In perfect conditions maybe, but in the Pech Valley, wind shear from the mountains, heat mirage, altitude. He pauses and everyone in the room can hear what he's not saying. That he's the best shooter they have. That if he can't make it, nobody can. I know the problems, Chief. With respect, sir, I'm good. I'm real good. Mackenzie's jaw tightens. But at that range, in those conditions, it's a coin flip, not a shot. Maybe I get lucky. Maybe I don't. Maybe Danny moves at the wrong second and we just pissed away our only chance at him. The room goes quiet. That particular military quiet where nobody speaks because speaking means acknowledging truths that everyone already knows. That sometimes the enemy wins not because they're better, but because physics is on their side. That sometimes men like Called Danny keep killing, because the shot that would stop them exists only in theory, in the kind of perfect conditions that never manifest in war. Longest confirmed sniper kill in history was 2,400 meters and change, made by a British sniper in Afghanistan. Near perfect conditions, no wind, clear sight lines. A shot that made history books and training manuals, a shot that defined the outer edge of what was possible. They're talking about another half mile on top of that. Commander. Emma's voice, soft but clear, cutting through the silence like her bullet cut through Afghan dawn 3 days from now. Every head turns. She stands up, steps forward into the light, and Morrison sees something in her face that he's only seen a few times in his career, in the faces of men about to do something that will either make them legends or get them killed. Certainty. I can make that shot. For a moment, nobody speaks. The room holds its breath. Then Mackenzie laughs. Not cruel, not mocking, just incredulous. The kind of laugh that escapes when someone says something so absurd that anger doesn't even make sense as a response. Caldwell, no disrespect, but this isn't the qualification range. This is combat conditions. This is. I know what it is, Chief. Emma's eyes don't leave Morrison. Don't acknowledge Mackenzie. Don't acknowledge the other 7 men in the room who are looking at her like she just volunteered to fly to the moon using only force of will and determination. My grandfather's confirmed record was 2,286 meters. Korea, winter of 1952, enemy machine gun nest. First shot at that distance in Marine Corps history. She pauses. Lets that sink in. Lets them do the math. I've exceeded that distance multiple times, in conditions that would make the Pech Valley look easy. Morrison studies her, really studies her, not as a JTAC specialist, not as support personnel, as a sniper, as someone making a claim that should be impossible but is being delivered with the kind of calm that makes him think maybe, just maybe, it isn't. You're serious? Yes, sir. You understand what you're volunteering for. If you miss, Danny disappears. Hundreds more soldiers die while we try to find him again. The weight of every single one of those deaths sits on your shoulders. I understand, Commander. Emma's voice doesn't waver, doesn't hesitate. I also understand that Chief Mackenzie just told you he can't guarantee the shot. I can. Mackenzie stands up, 6 inches taller than Emma, twice her weight, 20 years more experience, and he's looking at her like she just slapped him across the face in front of his men. Commander, I need to speak with you, privately. Whatever you need to say it here. Sir, she's never done this in combat. She's support personnel. We need someone who what? Emma cuts in. Her voice is still soft, still calm, but there's steel underneath it now. The kind of steel that her grandfather forged in her, summer after summer on a Montana ranch, teaching her that being small didn't mean being weak, that being quiet didn't mean being harmless. Who has more experience missing? The room temperature drops 10 degrees. Morrison holds up a hand before Mackenzie can respond. Before this turns into something that damages unit cohesion, before egos and pride turn a tactical discussion into a personal fight. Caldwell, you've got sand, I'll give you that. But Chief Mackenzie's right about one thing. Combat is different than the range. So here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow morning, 0600, I want you at the long-range qualification course. 2,400 meters. Combat conditions. As close as we can simulate. You make that shot, we'll talk. Emma nods. Once, clean, simple, the nod of someone who just got exactly what they wanted. Yes, sir. Dismissed. That night, Emma sits alone in her quarters. A plywood box that barely qualifies as a room. A cot, a footlocker, and a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. On her cot lies a leather journal, worn soft with age and handling. The pages are yellowed, filled with cramped handwriting and technical diagrams that look like the work of an engineer or a mathematician, or someone who understood that death was a science with rules that could be learned and mastered and applied. She opens it carefully. The spine cracks like old bones. Gunnery Sergeant Robert Caldwell, personal log, Korea, 1952. The entries are sparse, clinical, range estimations, wind calculations, confirmed kills logged with the same emotional weight as grocery lists, but 3/4 through, the tone changes. November 18, 1952. And Emma reads the entry she's read 1,000 times, the one that matters more than all the others combined. Made the shot today, 2,286 meters, machine gun nest. Conditions were hell, wind from the northeast gusting to 25 mph. Temperature -15, had to calculate for everything, spin drift, Coriolis effect, the curvature of the goddamn earth. Took me 3 hours to set up. 1 second to pull the trigger. Enemy KIA. First time anyone's hit a target at this range in combat. They're calling it impossible. They're calling it luck. I call it mathematics, but here's what I can't put in the official report. There was a second target. Kid, maybe 19 years old, North Korean conscript. He looked at me through my scope just for a second, and I saw something in his face. Not a soldier, just a scared kid who didn't want to be there any more than I did. I had the shot, perfect sight picture. He was standing still. Probably wouldn't have even known he was dead until he was already gone. I didn't take it. Let him run. Probably got court-martialed or shot by his own officers for desertion. Or maybe he made it home. Maybe he lived. Maybe he had kids and grandkids and a life that wouldn't have existed if I'd pulled that trigger. I don't know if I made the right choice. I just know it was a choice. And that's something they don't teach you in sniper school. The shooting is easy. It's the choosing that's hard. Emma closes the journal, holds it against her chest, and thinks about choices, about legacy, about a promise made to a dying man who understood that being the best meant more than just being the most accurate. It meant being wise enough to know when accuracy mattered. Tomorrow she'll prove she can shoot. 2,400 meters. Combat conditions. She'll prove to Morrison, to Mackenzie, to all of them that the impossible is just another word for difficult, that her grandfather's blood runs in her veins and his skill lives in her hands. But somewhere in the back of her mind, in the place where doubt lives, where fear waits, where the weight of responsibility sits like a stone, she wonders if proving she can shoot is enough. Because her grandfather could shoot, could hit targets at distances that made history books, could calculate variables that would make mathematicians weep. But he also knew when not to shoot, knew when to let the scared kid run, knew that being a sniper wasn't just about the rifle, it was about the choice. And Emma hasn't told them everything, hasn't told them about the nights she lies awake thinking about her grandfather's mercy, wondering if it was wisdom or weakness, wondering if the kid he spared lived or died, wondering if mercy is a luxury that snipers can afford. Tomorrow she'll take the shot, 2,400 meters, she'll prove herself. But the real test, the one that matters, the one her grandfather understood, won't come on a range. It'll come when lives depend on her judgment. When the crosshairs settle on a target and the only thing standing between life and death is her finger on a trigger and her heart trying to decide if pulling it is right or wrong or something in between that doesn't have a name. That's when she'll find out if she's really her grandfather's granddaughter. That's when she'll discover if precision is enough or if wisdom matters more. Why is she standing alone on the qualification range at 0530? 30 minutes before anyone asked her to be there. The sun hasn't risen yet. Afghanistan is still dark, still cold, still wrapped in the particular silence that comes before military bases wake up and turn into organized chaos. Emma sets up her rifle in the dark because she learned a long time ago that preparation isn't something you do when it's convenient. It's something you do when it matters. The Remington 700 feels right in her hands. Her grandfather's rifle, passed down through blood and training, and the understanding that some legacies are worth carrying even when they're heavy. She's already done the math. 2,400 meters, wind from the west, gusting to 15 miles per hour, temperature 42 degrees Fahrenheit, humidity low. Altitude 8,000 feet, which means the air is thin, which means less resistance, which means the bullet will travel faster but also means less atmospheric pressure to stabilize its flight. She's calculated bullet drop, spin drift, Coriolis effect, the rotation of the Earth beneath the bullet's flight path, variables that most people don't even know exist, let alone know how to compensate for. She's ready. But ready and confident are different things. And as Emma settles into position, feeling the familiar weight of the rifle, the familiar pressure of the stock against her cheek, she realizes her hands are shaking. Not much, just a tremor, the kind that nobody would notice unless they were looking for it. But she's looking for it. She's always looking for weakness in herself, always searching for the flaw that will get her killed or get someone else killed or prove that maybe everyone who doubted her was right. "You're early." Morrison's voice. She didn't hear him approach, which bothers her because snipers are supposed to be aware of their surroundings, supposed to notice everything, supposed to be the ones who see without being seen. "Wanted to familiarize myself with the conditions, sir." Morrison settles in beside her with his binoculars. Behind him, the rest of the team is arriving. Mackenzie carrying his own rifle like he's planning to shoot after her, like he's planning to show her how it's really done. The assault team spreading out to observe. Even some support personnel who heard about the crazy JTAC specialist who thinks she can make a shot that's 40% longer than anything in the record books. Emma feels their eyes on her, feels the weight of their skepticism, their doubt, their certainty that she's about to fail and prove that women don't belong in sniper positions, that support personnel should stay in support roles, that sometimes the military's traditional boundaries exist for good reasons. Targets set up, Morrison says. 2,400 meters, standard silhouette. Wind's picking up, so if you're going to do this, do it in the next 10 minutes before conditions get worse. Emma nods, settles deeper into position. Her breathing slows, her heart rate drops. This is the zone. This is the place her grandfather taught her to find. The place where time stretches and the world narrows down to crosshairs and distance and the mathematics that never lie. Through her scope, she can barely see the target. It's a speck, a hint of a shape against the pale Afghan dirt. At 2,400 meters, humans aren't people anymore. They're geometry, they're calculations, they're points in space that exist only as numbers until the bullet makes them real. Wind from the west, 15 miles per hour gusting to 20. She adjusts her scope, 2 minutes of angle left, then another half-minute to compensate for the gusts. Bullet drop at this distance will be massive, over 600 inches, 50 feet. The bullet will arc up, then down, following a parabolic curve that exists only in physics textbooks and in the minds of snipers who have done this math so many times it's become instinct. But there's something else, something she can't tell them about, something that's been bothering her since yesterday's briefing. Her grandfather's record was made in Korea, in winter, in conditions that were objectively harder than what she's facing now. And if she beats 2,400 meters today, if she proves she can do this, then Morrison will give her the green light for Operation Phantom Thunder. 3,200 meters, maybe more, against Kal Danny, the ghost, a man who's killed 47 American soldiers, a man who will kill more if she misses. And that's when Emma realizes something that makes her hands shake harder, makes her breath catch, makes her wonder if volunteering for this was courage or arrogance or something in between. She's never killed anyone before. 3 years at Marine Scout Sniper School, graduated top of her class, qualified on every weapon, but she never deployed as a sniper, never put crosshairs on a human being and pulled the trigger and watched them drop and knew that they would never go home, never see their family, never have another thought or feeling or moment of existence because of a choice she made. She's killed paper targets, steel silhouettes, training dummies. She's killed abstractions and theoretical enemies and the kind of targets that don't bleed or scream or have mothers who will cry when they don't come home. But she's never killed a person. And suddenly, 2,400 meters seems very far and very close at the same time. "Whenever you're ready, Caldwell." Morrison's voice is neutral, professional, but she can hear the doubt underneath it, the expectation of failure, the certainty that in about 30 seconds she's going to prove that some shots are impossible no matter how much training you have or how good your grandfather was or how badly you want to honor his legacy. Emma closes her eyes, takes a breath, and hears her grandfather's voice in her head, not memory but something deeper, something that lives in her bones. "The shooting is easy, Emma. It's the choosing that's hard." She opens her eyes, settles the crosshairs on the target, compensates for wind, for distance, for every variable that wants to pull the bullet off course. Her finger finds the trigger. 2 pounds of pressure. That's all it takes. 2 pounds between theory and practice, between training and reality, between who she thinks she is and who she's about to prove herself to be. She squeezes. The Remington speaks its truth. The bullet leaves the barrel at 2,750 feet per second, climbing into the Afghan dawn, following the mathematics that don't care about her fear or her doubt or the weight of her grandfather's legacy sitting on her shoulders like a physical thing. 3 seconds of flight time. Everyone watches through binoculars and scopes, tracking the arc, following the trajectory, waiting to see if the impossible is possible, or if Emma Thorne Caldwell is about to learn the hardest lesson in military service. Sometimes, wanting something badly enough isn't enough. The target rings, dead center. The sound carries across the range like a bell, like an announcement, like proof of something that everyone said couldn't be done. For a moment, nobody speaks. Then Mackenzie lowers his binoculars, looks at Emma, really looks at her for the first time since she walked into the briefing room and volunteered for a mission that should have been his. "Holy shit," he says, and it's not professional, it's not military, it's just honest. The kind of honest that comes when you watch someone do something that rewrites what you thought was possible. Morrison steps forward. His face is unreadable, but Emma's been reading men's faces long enough to see what he's not saying. Surprise, respect, and something else. Something that looks like concern. "That was one shot, Caldwell. You understand that in combat you don't get a warm-up. You don't get to test the conditions. You get one chance, one trigger pull, and if you miss—" "I won't miss, sir." Emma's voice is steady now. The shaking is gone, because she just did what everyone said was impossible, and that changes things. Changes how she sees herself. Changes how they see her. Changes everything. "Danny's compound is at least 800 meters further than what you just did, in worse conditions, with a living target who moves, who breathes, who might step left or right at exactly the wrong moment." "I understand, sir." Morrison studies her. 28 years in the teams. 28 years of making decisions that put people in danger, that sent them into situations where death was a possibility or a probability or a certainty. And he's about to make another one. "You're authorized for Operation Phantom Thunder. We deploy in 48 hours. Mackenzie will be your spotter. You'll work together on final calculations, environmental assessment, all of it. This isn't a solo mission, Caldwell. This is a team operation. You pull that trigger, but only when Chief Mackenzie confirms the shot is viable. Understood?" "Yes, sir." "Dismissed." Emma stands, picks up her rifle, walks away from the range with the weight of proof behind her and the weight of reality ahead of her. She proved she can shoot. She proved that her grandfather's legacy lives in her hands, that his skill passed through blood and training into her bones. But as she walks back to her quarters, as the sun finally breaks over the Afghan horizon and turns the mountains gold, she thinks about the target she just hit. It didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't have a family waiting for it or a life that would end when the bullet arrived. It was just steel and paint, and the kind of enemy that exists only on ranges, the kind that makes shooting easy because there's no moral weight to it, no choice involved, no moment where you have to decide if the person in your crosshairs deserves to die or if you deserve to be the one who makes that decision. In 48 hours, that will change. In 48 hours, she'll put her crosshairs on Call Danny, the ghost, a man who's killed 47 Americans, a man who will kill more if she doesn't stop him, a man who is unquestionably, undeniably, morally deserving of death. But he's also a person, a human being who breathes and thinks and exists. And when she pulls that trigger, when she sends a bullet across 3,200 meters of Afghan air, she won't just be ending a threat. She'll be ending a life. And that's something her grandfather understood, something he wrote about in his journal, something he struggled with for 50 years until the day he died. The shooting is easy. It's the choosing that's hard. Emma reaches her quarters, sets her rifle down, and realizes that in 48 hours she's going to find out if she's really her grandfather's granddaughter. Not because she can shoot like him, but because she'll have to choose like him. And she has no idea if she's ready for that. What does it feel like to know you're about to kill someone? Emma doesn't sleep the night before the mission. She lies on her cot, staring at the plywood ceiling, listening to the sounds of Fob Wolverine settling into its nighttime rhythm, generators humming, guards changing shifts, helicopters spinning up for night operations, the particular mechanical symphony of a military base that never truly sleeps. Her grandfather's journal is open on her chest. She's read it cover to cover 11 times in the past 48 hours, looking for wisdom, looking for guidance, looking for something that will tell her how to do this without losing a piece of herself in the process. But the journal offers only facts, wind calculations, range estimations, kill confirmations written in the same hand that used to write her birthday cards, that used to sign permission slips for school field trips, that used to shake slightly when he got old, when the Korea memories caught up with him, when the weight of 43 confirmed kills sat on his shoulders like a physical burden. He never wrote about how it felt, never documented the moment before the trigger pull, the second of decision where you're still a person who hasn't killed anyone and then you're not. You're something different, something changed, something that can never go back to who you were before. 0400, 4 hours until insertion. Emma gives up on sleep. She gets dressed in the dark. Combat fatigues, boots, the routine of preparation that keeps her hands busy and her mind from wandering too far into the territory of doubt. The Remington 700 is already packed, already loaded, already prepared for a shot that most people think is impossible, and that Emma knows is just mathematics plus wind plus distance plus one very fragile human variable. Judgment. At 0500, the team assembles in the operations center. Morrison runs through the mission brief one final time. Insertion by helicopter to a position 12 kilometers from Danny's compound. Overland movement under cover of darkness. Set up in a hide site by 0800. Wait for target acquisition. Take the shot. Extract. Simple, clean. Except nothing in combat is ever simple or clean. Mackenzie sits beside Emma, going over environmental calculations on his tablet. He's been different since the qualification range. Still professional, still skeptical. But there's a grudging respect now, the kind that comes when someone proves you wrong in a way that can't be argued with. Wind's going to be variable, he says. Valley creates microclimates. You'll have to adjust on the fly. I know. Distance to target is estimated at 3,200 meters. Could be more depending on where Danny positions himself. I know. Mackenzie looks at her, really looks at her, and for the first time, Emma sees something other than doubt in his eyes. Concern. You ever kill anyone before, Caldwell? The question hangs in the air between them. Emma could lie, could say yes, could maintain the fiction that she's combat-hardened, that taking a life is routine, that pulling the trigger on a human being is no different than pulling it on a paper target. But her grandfather taught her that snipers don't lie to their spotters. Spotters keep you alive. Spotters make the shot possible, and lies between sniper and spotter get people killed. No, Chief, never. Mackenzie nods slowly, not judging, just processing. It's different, he says quietly. The training doesn't prepare you for it. You think it will. You think you know what it's going to feel like. But when you see them drop, when you watch the life leave them even from 2 miles away, it changes something. You'll be different after. Everyone is. My grandfather had 43 confirmed kills. I read his file. Mackenzie pauses. You know how many I have? Emma shakes her head. 17. 17 people who were alive before I pulled a trigger and dead after. 17 families who lost someone. 17 people who had thoughts and feelings and probably didn't think they were going to die that day. He looks down at his tablet at the calculations that will help Emma make number 18. Every single one of them deserved it. Terrorists, insurgents, people who were actively trying to kill Americans. Morally, legally, tactically justified, every single one. He looks back at her. Still think about them. Still remember their faces through the scope. Still wonder sometimes about who they were before they became enemies, before they became targets, before they became numbers in a report. Does it get easier? No, Mackenzie's voice is flat. It gets normal, that's worse. The helicopter ride to the insertion point is loud, dark, and tense. Emma sits with her rifle between her knees, feeling the vibration of the rotors through her boots, watching the Afghan landscape pass beneath them in shades of gray and black. Mackenzie sits across from her, eyes closed, probably running through calculations, probably preparing for the thousand things that can go wrong on a mission like this. Morrison is 2 seats down, checking equipment, checking his team, being the kind of commander who makes sure everyone has what they need before he thinks about himself. The assault team is quiet, professional. They know their role is to provide security, to keep Emma and Mackenzie alive while they set up, while they wait, while they take a shot that will either end Call Danny or alert him that someone's hunting him and send him running into Pakistan where they'll never find him again. The helicopter drops them in a valley 12 kilometers from target, the kind of Afghan terrain that looks beautiful in daylight and deadly at night. Rocks, ravines, slopes that shift from gentle to deadly in the space of a footstep. They move in silence, night vision turning the world green and ghostly. Emma carries her rifle and 70 pounds of equipment, feeling the burn in her legs, the ache in her shoulders, the particular discomfort of combat movement that's designed to get you where you're going without getting you killed but makes no promises about comfort. 4 hours of movement, no talking, no lights, just boots on rock and the occasional hand signal from Morrison directing the team around obstacles, up ridges, through terrain that wants to kill them through simple physics and gravity. At 0745, they reach the hide site, a cluster of rocks on a ridgeline overlooking the Pech Valley, natural concealment, clear sight lines, and 3,200 meters of Afghan air between Emma's position and Call Danny's compound. Mackenzie sets up the spotting scope while Emma positions the Remington. The assault team fans out, establishing a security perimeter, watching for Taliban patrols or civilians who might wander too close and compromise the position. Morrison settles in beside Emma. You've got until 1300. Intel says Danny makes his daily rounds at noon. If he's there, you'll have a window. If he doesn't show, we extract and try again tomorrow. Understood, sir. Caldwell, Morrison's voice is softer now. Not the commander, just a man who's about to watch someone under his command do something that will change them. You sure about this? Emma looks through her scope. The compound is visible, barely. A collection of stone buildings that could be a farm or a Taliban headquarters or both. At this distance, with heat mirage already starting to shimmer the air, it looks less like a place where a man will die and more like a painting, something abstract and distant and not quite real. I'm sure, sir. Once you pull that trigger, there's no taking it back. You understand that? Yes, sir. Morrison nods, moves away, leaves Emma and Mackenzie alone with the rifle and the distance and the weight. Snipers spend a lot of time waiting, waiting for targets, waiting for weather, waiting for the perfect moment when all the variables align and the shot becomes possible. Her grandfather wrote about the waiting, how it's worse than the shooting, how the mind wanders, how doubt creeps in during the hours of stillness. Emma waits, watches, calculates. The sun rises higher. The temperature climbs. Heat mirage begins to distort the air, making the compound waver like something seen through water. At 11:30, Mackenzie stiffens. Movement, southwest corner of the main building. Emma shifts her scope, sees figures emerging. Men, armed, security detail. Second man from the left, Mackenzie says. That's our target, called Danny. Through her scope, Emma sees him. Not a photograph, not intelligence imagery, a real person, moving, breathing, alive. He's shorter than she expected, beard grayer. He's talking to one of his men, gesturing at something in the compound, maybe giving orders, maybe just having a conversation, maybe discussing lunch or weather or any of the thousand mundane things that people discuss before they die suddenly from bullets they never hear coming. Range is 3,247 meters. Mackenzie's voice is clinical now, professional. Wind from the west, variable 8 to 12 miles per hour. Temperature 94 degrees. Heavy mirage. Humidity 12%. Emma's already calculating, already compensating, already doing the math that will send a bullet across 2 miles of air and end a life. But her hands are shaking. Not from fear, from something else. From the realization that she's about to do something irreversible, something that her grandfather struggled with for 50 years, something that Mackenzie carries 17 times over in his memories. "You good?" Mackenzie asks quietly. Emma takes a breath, settles the crosshairs on Call Danny's chest, feels the trigger under her finger, 2 pounds of pressure between alive and dead. "I'm good." "Then take your time. Wait for the wind to settle, wait for the moment." Emma waits, watches Danny through her scope, watches him laugh at something one of his men said, watches him live his last moments without knowing they're his last moments. And she thinks about her grandfather, about the scared kid he didn't kill, about mercy and judgment and the difference between being a weapon and being a person who uses a weapon. Danny has killed 47 Americans. 47 people who had families and futures and lives that ended because of his orders, his planning, his cold certainty that killing coalition forces was justified, necessary, righteous. But he's also a person, a human being standing in the sun, talking to his men, breathing air, existing. And in about 5 seconds, if Emma pulls this trigger, he won't be. The wind settles, the mirage clears for just a moment, the perfect shot presents itself. Emma's finger tightens on the trigger, and she hesitates. What separates a sniper from a killer? The crosshairs are steady. The wind is calm. Call Danny is standing perfectly still, like the universe is giving Emma every possible advantage, like fate itself is conspiring to make this shot as easy as 3,200 meters can be. But Emma's finger won't move. 2 pounds of pressure. That's all it takes. 2 pounds between doing her job and failing her mission. 2 pounds between honoring her grandfather's legacy and dishonoring everything he taught her. 2 pounds between being the sniper everyone needs her to be and being the person she's not sure she can stop being once this is over. "Wind steady," Mackenzie whispers. "You've got the shot." Emma knows she has the shot. The math is perfect. The conditions are optimal. Danny is stationary. This is the moment. This is why they're here. This is what she volunteered for, what she proved she could do, what Morrison authorized, and what 47 dead Americans are depending on her to finish. But her finger won't move. Because through her scope, she sees something that the briefing photos didn't show. Something that intelligence reports can't capture. Something that makes Call Danny more than just a target designation, more than just a Taliban commander, more than just a collection of kill confirmations and casualty statistics. She sees him smile. It's a small thing, a moment. He's talking to one of his men and something amuses him, and for just a second, Call Danny isn't the ghost or a terrorist or an enemy combatant. He's just a man who finds something funny, who expresses joy, who is unmistakably, undeniably human. And Emma realizes that killing paper targets is easy because paper doesn't smile. Steel silhouettes don't laugh. Training dummies don't have moments of humanity that make you question whether pulling the trigger is justice or murder or something in between that doesn't have a clean name. "Caldwell," Mackenzie's voice is urgent now. "You're losing the window. Wind's picking up." She knows. She can see it through her scope. The mirage returning. The conditions deteriorating. the perfect moment passing like water through fingers. Her grandfather's voice whispers in her head, "The shooting is easy. It's the choosing that's hard." And suddenly, Emma understands what he meant. It's not about whether Danny deserves to die. He does. 47 deaths make that math simple. It's not about whether she's capable of making the shot. She is. 2,400 meters on the qualification range proved that. It's not even about fear or doubt or inexperience. It's about choice. Her grandfather chose mercy for a scared 19-year-old kid who probably didn't want to fight, who probably got conscripted and forced into a uniform and put on a frozen mountain in Korea because governments make decisions and soldiers pay for them. That was a choice. A decision made with judgment, with wisdom, with the understanding that not every person in enemy uniform deserves death. But Danny isn't a scared kid. He's a commander, a planner, a man who makes decisions that kill Americans, who coordinates ambushes, who places IEDs on roads where convoys travel, who is personally, directly, morally responsible for 47 deaths and counting. This isn't mercy versus justice. This is justice versus justice. And Emma has to choose which one matters more. Her comfort or those 47 families who will never see their sons and daughters and husbands and wives again. Her clean conscience or the lives that Danny will take if she doesn't stop him. The wind settles again. One more chance, the universe giving her another opportunity. Emma takes a breath, settles the crosshairs, and makes her choice. She pulls the trigger. The Remington speaks its truth. The bullet leaves the barrel at 2,750 feet per second, climbing into Afghan midday, invisible, inevitable, following the mathematics that don't care about hesitation or doubt or the moral weight of ending a human life. 5 seconds of flight time. Emma tracks it in her mind, every millimeter of its arc, the climb, the drift, the pull of gravity drawing it down toward a man who has maybe 3 seconds left to smile, to laugh, to exist before physics and justice and Emma's choice catch up with him. Through her scope, she watches Danny drop, not like in movies, not dramatic, just sudden. 1 second he's standing, talking, being alive. The next second he's not. Confirmed kill, Mackenzie says. His voice is professional, clinical. The voice of someone who's seen this 17 times before and knows that emotion is for later, that now is for security, for extraction, for making sure the team gets home. But Emma barely hears him. She's still looking through her scope, still watching the compound erupt into chaos as Danny's men realize something just happened, as they scatter and search for the threat and fail to comprehend that it came from over 2 miles away, from a direction they didn't think was possible, from a woman they never knew existed. She just killed a man, a person, a human being who was alive and is now dead because of a choice she made. And she feels nothing. That's the part that terrifies her. She thought she'd feel guilt or horror or some overwhelming emotional response that would confirm she's still human, still capable of recognizing the weight of what she just did. But there's nothing. Just the clinical satisfaction of a difficult job completed successfully. Just the mathematician's pleasure in solving a complex equation. Just the shooter's pride in making a shot that most people said was impossible. Is this normal? Is this what Mackenzie meant when he said it gets normal instead of easier? Pack it up, Morrison orders. We've got 10 minutes before that compound goes on alert and every Taliban fighter in the valley comes looking for us. The team moves with practiced efficiency. Emma breaks down her rifle, feeling the weight of it differently now. It's not just a tool anymore. It's the instrument she used to end a life, her grandfather's legacy, and now her burden. The extraction is clean. No contact. No pursuit. The Taliban don't know where the shot came from, don't know who to chase, don't know that they're looking for a woman who just broke every distance record in military history and killed their commander with a bullet he never heard coming. Back at Fob Wolverine, Morrison debriefs the team. Confirmed kill. Mission success. Outstanding performance under extreme conditions. The words that will go in reports, that will justify the operation, that will make Emma's shot a statistic in a database somewhere, another kill confirmation in the endless accounting of war. But after the debrief, after the team disperses, Morrison pulls Emma aside. You hesitated. It's not a question. It's an observation. And Emma realizes that Morrison saw everything through his binoculars, saw her perfect shot window, saw her freeze, saw her choose. Yes, sir. Why? Emma thinks about lying, about saying the wind shifted or the mirage obscured her sight picture, or any of the dozen technical excuses that would satisfy Morrison's question without revealing the truth. But her grandfather taught her that snipers don't lie about what happens in the scope. I saw him smile, sir, and for a second I had to choose between remembering he was a person and remembering he was a killer. Morrison is quiet for a long moment. Then he says, "What made you pull the trigger?" 47 dead Americans, and the knowledge that if I didn't stop him, there would be more. That wasn't mercy I was considering. It was cowardice disguised as conscience. Morrison nods slowly. Your grandfather spared someone in Korea. You know that story. Yes, sir. You know what the difference was between his choice and yours. Emma shakes her head. His target was a kid who was running away. Not a threat anymore, just a scared person trying to survive. Your target was a commander coordinating attacks, still a threat, still killing, still making choices that ended American lives. Morrison meets her eyes. Your grandfather chose mercy when it was appropriate. You chose justice when it was necessary. Both required judgment. Both were right for their situations. He pauses. The fact that you hesitated, that you thought about it, that you didn't just pull the trigger reflexively, that's what makes you a sniper instead of just a shooter. Snipers think. Shooters just aim. Morrison turns to leave, then stops. How do you feel about the kill? Emma considers the question, considers lying, considers saying she feels terrible or guilty or traumatized or any of the responses that would make her seem more human, more affected, more normal. But she tells the truth. I don't feel anything, sir, and that scares me more than if I felt everything. Morrison looks at her with something that might be sympathy or understanding, or the recognition of a fellow traveler on a road that changes people. Give it time, Caldwell, the feeling will come. It always does. That night, Emma sits in her quarters with her grandfather's journal open on her lap. She turns to a blank page at the back, picks up a pen, and writes her first entry. September 17, 2011. Afghanistan, Pech Valley. Target, called Danny, Taliban commander. Range, 3,247 meters. Conditions, variable wind, heavy mirage, extreme distance. Confirmed kill. She pauses, then continues writing. I hesitated, saw him smile, had to choose between seeing him as a person and seeing him as what he'd done. Chose the mission, chose justice, chose to protect American lives by ending his. Don't know if Grandpa would be proud or disappointed. Don't know if I'm becoming what I need to be or losing what I was. Don't know if the fact that I don't feel anything means I'm broken or just becoming a sniper. Morrison says the feeling will come later. Hope he's right. Hope I'm still capable of feeling something about taking a life. Because if I'm not, then what's the difference between me and the people I'm killing? The shooting was easy. The choosing was hard, but I made the choice, and I'll live with it. However long that takes. She closes the journal, sets it beside her grandfather's. 2 snipers, 2 generations. 2 people who learned that distance isn't measured in meters but in the space between who you are before you kill someone and who you become after. Emma lies down, closes her eyes, and for the first time since she pulled the trigger she feels something. Not guilt, not horror, just a deep, bone-tired sadness for a world where sometimes the right choice is to end a life, where justice requires death, where protecting people means killing other people. Her grandfather understood that sadness, carried it for 50 years, wrote about it in careful, clinical terms that tried to hide emotion behind mathematics. Now Emma understands it too. And she knows that tomorrow, when she wakes up, she'll be different, changed, marked by the choice she made and the life she ended, and the knowledge that she's capable of killing without feeling, which might make her an excellent sniper, but also might make her something less than fully human. That's the price. That's the cost. That's the legacy her grandfather passed down along with his rifle. The ability to make the hard choice, and the wisdom to recognize that making it changes you forever. They say a record is just a number until someone breaks it. But what if breaking it means inheriting more than glory? 3 days after Emma Thorne Caldwell killed Carl Danny, the official confirmation comes through intelligence channels. Not just a kill confirmation. Something else. Something nobody expected. Danny wasn't alone in that compound. His second-in-command was there too. A man named Rashid Vance, former U.S. Marine Scout sniper, dishonorable discharge, turned traitor, turned mercenary, turned trainer for the Taliban, teaching insurgents American tactics, American techniques, American methods of killing Americans. And Rashid Vance was trained by someone Emma knows. Her grandfather. The file sits on Morrison's desk like a grenade without a pin. Emma reads it 3 times, hopping the words will change, hopping she misunderstood, hopping this is some mistake or misidentification or bureaucratic error. But the facts don't change. Gunnery Sergeant Robert Caldwell trained Rashid Vance in 1988, Advanced Sniper Course. Quantico. Vance graduated top of his class, went on to serve in Desert Storm, confirmed kills, commendations, the kind of record that should have led to a career, to retirement, to honor. Instead, he took a dishonorable discharge in 1995 for reasons the file doesn't specify, disappeared for a decade, reappeared in Afghanistan in 2008, selling his skills, training insurgents, teaching the Taliban how to kill American soldiers using techniques an American Marine taught him. And according to intelligence reports, Vance was responsible for training the fighters who killed 15 of the 47 Americans attributed to Carl Danny's operations. Which means Emma's grandfather, through a choice he made 23 years ago to train a promising young Marine, is indirectly responsible for 15 American deaths. Which means mercy has consequences. Which means the scared kid her grandfather didn't kill in Korea might have lived and had children, and one of those children might have become Rashid Vance, and the lineage of that mercy led directly to this moment, to these deaths, to this impossible mathematical connection between past and present. Or maybe not. Maybe it's just coincidence. Maybe the world isn't that perfectly cruel or that precisely ironic. Maybe sometimes things just happen without cosmic significance or moral lessons, or the kind of neat symmetry that makes storytelling satisfying. But Emma doesn't believe in coincidence anymore. Not after this. Morrison watches her read the file, watches her process information that changes everything she thought she understood about legacy and mercy, and the long echo of choices made decades before. There's more, he says quietly. Emma looks up, wonders what could possibly be worse than discovering her grandfather's mercy led to American deaths. Vance is still alive, still operating. Intel suggests he's moved to a compound in Pakistan. We can't touch him there legally, but Morrison pauses. He knows about your shot, about Danny, and he's making threats. Says he trained under the best, learned from Caldwell, and that he's going to prove the student has surpassed the master. He's targeting me. Yes. Emma closes the file, feels the weight of it, not the paper, the implications. Her grandfather trained the man who trained the fighters who killed Americans, And now that man wants to kill her to prove something, to settle some score, to demonstrate that training is stronger than blood. What do you need me to do, sir? Morrison looks at her for a long moment. Intel has located Vance's position. Different compound, Pakistani border, extreme range. Maybe 3,500 meters, maybe more. Worse conditions than Danny. And Vance is a sniper, which means he'll be watching for counter-snipers, which means this won't be a stationary target. You're asking me to take another shot. I'm asking if you're willing to. Because this isn't orders, Caldwell. This is volunteer. Vance is a traitor, but he's also an American citizen, which complicates the legal situation. And even if we clear that, the shot is borderline impossible, even for you. Emma thinks about her grandfather, about the choices he made, about the scared kid he spared and the Marine he trained, about mercy that led to death and training that led to betrayal, about the fact that legacy isn't just what you pass down intentionally. It's also what echoes from your choices in ways you never intended. I'll take the shot, sir. Morrison nods, expected that answer. 48 hours, same team, same procedure, except this time your target isn't going to stand still and smile. This time you're hunting another hunter. The mission prep is different this time. Emma isn't nervous, isn't questioning. The hesitation she felt with Danny is gone, replaced by something harder, something colder, something that feels like her grandfather's clinical precision without his wisdom tempering it. Mackenzie notices during equipment check, "You're different." Am I? After Danny, you were processing. Human, now you're, he searches for the word, mechanical. Emma loads her rifle with the careful efficiency of someone who's done this enough times that it's become automatic. Rashid Vance trained Taliban fighters who killed 15 Americans. He's using techniques my grandfather taught him. He's threatening to kill me to prove something about his training versus my bloodline. I don't need to process that. I just need to stop it. That's what I mean. You're thinking like a weapon instead of a person who uses one. Maybe that's what snipers are supposed to be. Mackenzie is quiet for a moment. Then he says, "Your grandfather didn't think so." The insertion is the same, helicopter, 12 kilometers, night movement. But this time when they reach the hide site and Emma sets up her rifle, she doesn't feel the weight of the choice, doesn't feel the moral complexity, just feels the mathematics, the wind, the distance, the target. Rashid Vance's compound is visible through her scope. Pakistani side of the border, which means technically off-limits, which means this mission doesn't officially exist. More stone buildings. More terrain that makes conventional assault impossible. More reasons why a bullet from extreme distance is the only option. They wait, hours pass. The sun climbs. Conditions deteriorate with heat mirage and variable winds. At 1100 hours, Mackenzie stiffens. Movement. Emma shifts her scope, sees a figure on the compound roof, not Danny's casual exposure. This is tactical, scanning, searching. The movement of someone who knows threat could come from any direction. "That's Vance," Mackenzie says. "Former Marine Scout sniper. He knows we might be watching. He's making himself a difficult target." Through her scope, Emma sees him. Rashid Vance, former American, current traitor, student of her grandfather, killer of American soldiers through proxy and training. And she sees him looking back, not at her directly. She's too far, too concealed, but looking in her general direction, scanning the ridgelines, searching for the countersniper he knows is out there somewhere. Range is 3,512 meters, Mackenzie says. Wind variable 12 to 18 miles per hour. Target is moving, non-stationary. This isn't a guaranteed shot, Caldwell. Emma's already calculating, already compensating, already doing the math that will send a bullet further than any confirmed combat kill in history. Her grandfather's record was 2286. She beat that with Danny at 3247. Now she's attempting 3512. breaking records, surpassing legacy, proving that training plus blood equals something greater than either alone. But as she settles the crosshairs on Rashid Vance, as her finger finds the trigger, she realizes something. She doesn't want to just kill him. She wants to destroy what he represents. The betrayal, the corruption of everything her grandfather taught, the proof that mercy can have consequences and training can be weaponized against the people who gave it. She wants to send a message, not to Vance. He'll be dead before he hears it, but to herself, to Morrison, to Mackenzie, to anyone who thinks that being a woman means being soft, or that hesitation means weakness, or that choosing to think before you kill means you're not a real sniper. Wind settling, Mackenzie whispers. You've got maybe 10 seconds before it picks up again. Emma tracks Vance through her scope. He's still moving, still scanning, still searching for the threat he knows is out there. And then he stops, just for a moment, looking almost directly at Emma's position, like he knows, like some sniper instinct is screaming at him that he's being watched, that death is calculating his position, that 2 miles away someone is about to make a choice that will end his life. The wind calms, the moment arrives, perfect conditions, perfect sight picture, perfect shot. Emma pulls the trigger. The bullet leaves at 2,750 feet per second, climbing, arcing, following mathematics across 3,512 meters of Pakistani air, 6 seconds of flight time, 6 seconds for Rashid Vance to live and die without knowing which is happening. Through her scope, Emma watches, tracks, waits. Vance drops, but not immediately, not like Danny. He stumbles first, realizes he's hit, reaches for something, maybe a rifle, maybe trying to locate the shooter, maybe just a reflex muscle memory from 20 years of training telling him to fight back even as blood and physics, and the inevitable conclusion of a 3,500-meter shot tell him there's nothing to fight. Then he falls, final, complete, dead before he hits the compound roof. Confirmed kill. Mackenzie's voice, clinical, professional. Longest confirmed combat kill in U.S. military history. Caldwell, you just broke every record that exists. But Emma barely hears him. She's still watching through her scope, watching Vance's body lying on the roof, watching his men emerge, searching for what killed him, failing to comprehend that the shot came from a distance they didn't think was possible. She just killed a traitor, an American who turned against his country, a man trained by her grandfather who used that training to kill Americans. She should feel satisfaction, justice, pride. Instead, she feels empty. Because Rashid Vance was a person too, was a Marine once, was someone her grandfather believed in enough to train, was someone who made choices that led him down a path from hero to traitor, from protector to killer, from American to enemy. And Emma just ended that story, closed that chapter, sent a bullet across 2 miles of air to write a conclusion that feels less like justice and more like waste. Pack it up, Morrison orders. We need to move before Pakistani military gets curious. The extraction is clean. The flight back to Fob Wolverine is quiet. Emma sits with her rifle, feeling the weight of what just happened, feeling the numbers calculating in her head. 3,512 meters. New record. Longest confirmed combat kill in American military history, surpassing her grandfather, surpassing everyone. Breaking the record he set in Korea, and proving that his legacy lives in her hands, that his training wasn't wasted, that blood carries skill across generations. But also proving something else, something darker. That legacy isn't always about what you intend to pass down. Sometimes it's about what echoes from your choices in ways you never meant, in ways that hurt instead of help, in ways that make the next generation question whether inheritance is blessing or curse. Back at Fob Wolverine, Morrison pulls her aside. Debriefing in 1 hour, but first I need to tell you something. Emma waits. We found intel in Vance's compound, messages, communications. He wasn't just training Taliban. He was recruiting American veterans, disaffected service members, people who felt betrayed by the military or the government or just wanted money more than they wanted honor. Morrison pauses. He had a list of 15 names, Americans, veterans, most with sniper training, all in various stages of recruitment to work for Taliban leadership as trainers and advisors. You're telling me I didn't just kill a traitor. I stopped a recruitment network. Yes, those 15 Americans were about to become the next generation of Vances, training insurgents, selling American tactics, getting American soldiers killed. Morrison meets her eyes. Your shot didn't just eliminate Rashid Vance. It prevented 15 more traitors from being created, maybe saved hundreds of American lives. Emma should feel better, should feel like this information justifies the shot, validates the kill, proves that killing Vance was necessary and right and morally uncomplicated. But she doesn't feel better, because now the math is even more impossible. One death prevents 15 betrayals, prevents hundreds of casualties, prevents thousands of impacts on families and communities, and the endless ripple effects of violence. How do you calculate the moral weight of that? How do you measure one life against 15, against hundreds, against thousands? Commander, can I ask you something? Go ahead. My grandfather spared someone in Korea, a scared kid, and that mercy might have led to consequences we can't predict. Maybe that kid lived and had children and one of them became Vance. Maybe mercy has costs that echo across generations. Emma pauses. But if that's true, then what I just did, killing Vance, that also has consequences that echo. Maybe one of those 15 Americans on his recruitment list would have been a great trainer who would have helped Taliban kill hundreds. Or maybe they would have washed out, gone home, lived normal lives. Maybe my justice prevented horror, or maybe it just delayed it. What are you asking, Caldwell? I'm asking if my grandfather made the wrong choice, if mercy in war is weakness, if being a sniper means giving up the right to choose anything except death. Morrison is quiet for a long time. Then he says, your grandfather made his choice based on the information he had. A scared kid running away, no longer a threat. Mercy was appropriate. You made your choice based on the information you had. A traitor actively recruiting more traitors. A continuing threat. Justice was necessary. He pauses. The question isn't whether mercy or justice is right. The question is whether you made the right choice for the situation you were in, and both of you did. Morrison turns to leave, then stops. You're being recommended for the Bronze Star, for actions directly leading to the elimination of 2 high-value targets and preventing the recruitment of American traitors. You'll receive it next week. A medal, recognition, proof that what she did mattered, that her choices were right, that breaking her grandfather's record wasn't just ego or competition but service, duty, the kind of thing that deserves official acknowledgement. Emma should feel proud, should feel honored, should feel like she's finally proven herself worthy of her grandfather's legacy. Instead, she just feels tired. That night she sits in her quarters with both journals open, her grandfather's on the left, hers on the right, 2 snipers, 2 generations, 2 people learning the same lesson 50 years apart. The shooting is easy, the choosing is hard. She writes her second entry. September 20, 2011, Pakistan border. Target, Rashid Vance, traitor, former Marine, student of my grandfather. Range, 3,512 meters. New record, longest confirmed combat kill in U.S. military history. Killed a man today who was trained by Grandpa. Killed him to stop him from creating more traitors. Killed him to prevent American deaths. Killed him because that's what snipers do when targets need killing. But I also killed him because I wanted to. Because I was angry that Grandpa's mercy might have led to this. Because I wanted to prove that I could surpass his record. Because being the best mattered more than being right. Don't know if that makes me a good sniper or a bad person. Don't know if there's a difference anymore. Morrison says I made the right choice. Says Grandpa made the right choice. Says both decisions were based on judgment. But what if judgment is just another word for guess? What if we're all just making our best estimate and hoping the consequences don't prove us wrong? Grandpa spared someone and maybe that led to Vance. I killed Vance and maybe that prevents 15 traitors. Or maybe one of those potential traitors would have been the person who eventually negotiates peace, or saves lives, or does something that makes my killing Vance the wrong choice after all. Can't know, can't predict, can only choose and live with it. That's the legacy, not the rifle, not the records, not the medals. The burden of choosing, and the wisdom to recognize that choosing changes you forever. She closes her journal, looks at her grandfather's, remembers his funeral, remembers him making her promise to be better than good, remembers thinking that meant being a better shot, hitting further targets, breaking his records. Now she understands he meant something different. Being better than good meant being wise enough to know when not to shoot. Being better than good meant recognizing that accuracy without judgment is just mechanical precision. Being better than good meant understanding that the rifle is just metal and wood, that the shot is just physics, but the choice is everything. Emma Thorne Caldwell broke every distance record that exists, surpassed her grandfather, became the best long-range sniper in American military history at age 27. But she also learned what her grandfather knew, what he carried for 50 years, what made him write in careful, clinical terms that tried to hide the weight of 43 confirmed kills behind mathematics and wind calculations. That being the best shot doesn't mean being the best sniper. Being the best sniper means knowing when the shot matters, when the trigger pull protects instead of just destroys, when killing is justice instead of just killing. And sometimes, the hardest shot isn't the longest one. It's knowing when not to take it at all. 3 months later, Emma stands in front of 24 students on their first day of Scout Sniper School. The classroom at Quantico is sterile, institutional, nothing like the mountains of Afghanistan, but the weight of expectation is the same. Young faces look back at her, mostly men, a few women scattered among them, all of them looking at her with curiosity and skepticism, and the particular kind of doubt that comes when someone young tries to teach people who are sometimes older. I'm Petty Officer Caldwell. My record shot is 3,512 meters. Made it in Pakistan. September 2011. Longest confirmed combat kill in United States military history. The room is silent, impressed, some disbelief still lingering. That's not why you should listen to me. Emma pulls out her grandfather's journal, worn soft from a lifetime of handling. My grandfather's record was 2,286 meters, made it in Korea, November 1952, but his most important shot, she holds up the journal, was the one he didn't take, the one where he chose mercy over mission. She walks along the front row, making eye contact with each student. Shooting is physics, wind speed, air density, bullet drop, Coriolis effect, spin drift. I can teach you all of that. Over the next 12 weeks, you'll learn to calculate everything down to the millimeter. You'll learn to compensate for factors most people never think about. You'll become experts in the mathematics of death. She opens the journal to her grandfather's entry, reads it aloud. The hardest shot isn't the longest one. It's knowing when not to take it. One student raises his hand, young Marine, barely 20. Ma'am, with respect, you took the shot, multiple shots. How does that quote apply? Because I made the choice based on judgment, not reflex. Every time I pulled a trigger, I calculated not just the ballistics, but the consequences. Would this shot save American lives? Would not taking it endanger them? Was this the right target, the right moment, the right choice? Emma closes the journal, sets it on the podium in front of her. My grandfather chose mercy when mercy was appropriate. A scared 19-year-old who made a choice to run instead of fight. I chose justice when justice was necessary. A traitor who had killed 15 Americans and would have killed more. Both decisions required the same skill, judgment. She looks at each face in turn. Over the next 12 weeks, I'm going to teach you to shoot further than you think possible. I'm going to teach you to calculate variables most people can't even name. I'm going to make you into weapons, precise, lethal, unstoppable. She pauses. But more than that, I'm going to teach you to think, to judge, to understand that being a sniper isn't about distance or body count or breaking records. It's about making the right choice when lives depend on it. Because any fool can pull a trigger. It takes wisdom to know when that trigger pull matters. After class, she stands alone on the range. Late afternoon sun paints Virginia in shades of amber. She sets up a target at 2,000 meters, not her longest shot, but a respectable distance, a distance her grandfather would have appreciated. The Remington 700 feels right in her hands. His rifle now hers, passed down through blood and training and the understanding that some legacies are worth carrying. She chambers around. Wind is calm, 5 miles per hour from 3 o'clock, temperature 72 degrees, humidity moderate, altitude negligible compared to Afghanistan. All the variables line up perfectly. She settles into position. Breathing slows, heart rate drops. The scope's crosshairs find the target with practiced ease. And in that moment before the shot, in the stillness that every sniper knows, she hears her grandfather's voice. Not memory, not imagination, something deeper. You understand now, Emma. It's not about the distance. It's never been about the distance. It's about making the right choice when it matters most. That's the legacy. That's what I tried to teach you all those summers on the ranch. Emma smiles. I understand, Grandpa, finally. She squeezes the trigger. The Remington speaks its truth. 3 seconds of flight. The bullet carves its path through Virginia air, following the mathematics that never lie, obeying the physics that don't care about legacy or honor or the weight of choice. The target rings, dead center. Emma stands, slings the rifle across her back. Behind her, she can hear the next class forming up, voices calling out, equipment being distributed, the sounds of people preparing to learn something that will change them forever. 24 students who will learn to calculate bullet drop and wind drift and Coriolis effect. Who will learn to shoot further than they've ever dreamed. Who will become the next generation of American snipers. But more importantly, who will learn judgment. Who will understand that the rifle is just metal and wood, that the shot is just physics, but the choice is everything. Emma walks toward the classroom, toward her students, toward the future she will help shape. The war will continue. There will always be another threat, another Vance, another Danny, but there will also be people like Emma, like her grandfather, people who understand that being a sniper isn't just about the distance you can reach. It's about the wisdom to know when to reach it. And that's a lesson worth passing on. Behind her, the sun sets over Quantico. The rifle range falls silent. Tomorrow, she will teach. Tomorrow, a new generation will begin to understand. But tonight, she allows herself one moment of peace, one moment to feel the weight of the bronze star on her chest, the memory of her grandfather's journal in her pack, the knowledge that she honored his legacy not by surpassing his distance, but by understanding his wisdom. The hardest shot isn't the longest one. She knows that now. She'll make sure they all know it. Because sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts. And sometimes wisdom isn't about what you do. It's about what you choose not to do. And sometimes being the best means recognizing that records are just numbers, but choices echo across generations. And the true measure of a sniper isn't how far they can reach, but how well they understand when reaching matters. Emma Thorne Caldwell walks into the classroom, closes the door behind her, and begins teaching the next generation what her grandfather taught her. Not just how to shoot, but how to choose.